Thank you for the sound check. So again, I am Jonathan with IVolLive. Today, I'd like to demonstrate the IVolLive platform. My goal today is to give an overview of all the key tools and features, kind of use some stocks that I've been following, also some stocks that have been in the news, show interesting trends, so how to get access to anything you need, and then take some questions at the end if there are any. So when you log in, like I just did here to IVolLive, you'll come to the dashboard. You'll see our friendly little green and white concierge tipping his hat, showing you, where the different shortcuts are to access the key tools. From the left, you have the dashboard, which we're in now, account details, which is where you would update any of your, contact information or billing details. IVolLive, which is the beating heart and brain of the platform. We'll spend a lot of time in there today. Sentiment Analyzer, which is great because, sentiment really does move markets. This tool lets you drill down on said sentiment. P&L calculator. So we're in this game to make money. So the P&L calc helps demonstrate, potential risk and potential reward for any given trade. Real-time spread scanner, an incredibly powerful tool for anybody that likes to trade spreads. And then data download. So this is how a tool we use to access historical data to then do backtesting. And of course, update wizard, always make sure you're up to date. You can expand or contract this, vertical column here by clicking on these chevrons, depending on the device you're on. Over here, again, just information on our most popular tools. Like IVolLive, you can also access those here, and you can access those here. And for any questions you have or to subscribe to IVolLive, just shoot us a note at support@ivolatility.com. Some of you guys might be on a free trial or just learning about IVolLive. So for anything account related, we're at support@ivolatility.com. So once you get through kind of that welcome message, things I like to look at here, I always kind of scroll through the latest news. This is like 2 or 3 sentences on some of the things that are moving the market any given day. As you can see, this is running all through the weekend as well. So this is kind of like, my weekend reading as I'm drinking my coffee. I could scroll through this. Over here, we have news and research. This is what we put out from our editorial team. So you'll see here every Monday, we put out our newsletter. For example, this Monday, we were spending a lot of time talking about interest rate decisions. So this is a big week with the Fed raising rates once again. We also kind of analyzed different earnings releases. So here we're looking at Apple, Starbucks, Uber, Kraft Heinz. We put interesting charts. Our legend is always blue is price, and then green is implied volatility. And then orange is historical volatility. So we'll talk about more of that once we're in IVolLive. But these are really good articles that kind of give you a sense for some of the things that that we're looking at, from where we sit. Especially, we're always looking at interesting trends with implied volatility. That's kind of obviously we're IVolLive. We're very well known for our IVX features and our implied volatility features. And what we do is we highlight interesting trends that we see there, and we also highlight interesting trends here with actionable trading ideas. So you can see as we run these scans within our system, if we see something that pops out as unique or interesting, we'll highlight it in these actionable trade ideas. So these are just, a way for you to get a shortcut, for your potential trading list any given day or any given week. You can see the ones that showed up that were interesting to us on this scan was NiSource, had this big jump in its implied volatility, IVX 30 looking 30 days out. The system's telling us something's going to happen here with NiSource. First Republic Bank has been at the leaderboard for the highest IVX reading for weeks now because of what was going on with the banking crisis. Of course, now they're going to be acquired by JP Morgan. And then Coca-Cola on the other end of the spectrum has had a very boring low IVX. But what that tells you is if you want to go long any of those options, they're cheap, on Coca-Cola right now. Whereas for First Republic, they would have been very, very expensive. And then for NiSource, they would have had a jump in pricing with that day over day reading. So we'll look at all of that here in a moment, but this is a really good spot to come just to get trading ideas, get the creative juices flowing. And then another great spot is IVolLive. So with IVolLive, you can continue to analyze those ideas that we're giving you, or you can analyze ideas of your own. So we've recently updated kind of this interface here. So a couple of just quick, housekeeping notes. You are able to toggle between, night mode and day mode by clicking this button up here, this moon icon. Now you're also able to custom label your tabs. So in the past, everything was just, stock monitor or charts or VIX or Coca-Cola. You weren't able to customize what the label said, but now you can. So you could see for Coca-Cola, for an example, I've got Coca-Cola bull calendar spread, because that's the strategy I'm evaluating for Coca-Cola. Microsoft is one I'm interested in, but I haven't decided on a strategy yet. So it's blank, it's Microsoft. Coinbase and PacWest Bancorp, I pulled up right before we went live today, so we could kind of analyze them a bit further on today's session. So right now they're blank. But as we evaluate a potential strategy, like for PacWest, for an example, we could just say PacWest, buy, call. Just a very basic scenario. So all I did is click on that pencil icon and then added the title. And now that follows me everywhere we go. Here's charts. If you ever want to add more of these, just hit this plus icon. What you're able to do here is type in, ticker. An example, if you wanted to add Tesla. You're also able to add, though, not just tickers, but you can add additional stock monitor tabs. So you can add futures monitor tabs. And then you can add additional charts tabs, as well. So you can see I've got 1, 2, 3 stock monitor tabs. I have 2 charts tabs. I actually have multiple tabs on my browser of IVolLive as well. And I do that because I always have kind of a few different things I'm analyzing at any given moment. But at the most basic level with the IVolLive on the stock monitor, before we get custom, I just want to show how we do things at a high level. And at a high level, you're able to run these really cool scans against different groups of stocks. So you can see this says DJX. So that's how we know right now we're running a screen. We're running a screen against the DJX, the Dow Jones. But you can run scans against any of your custom groups, which you could see. I do these webinars all the time, and I'm an active trader, so I've got a lot of different groups that I've set up as custom groups. But even if you've just joined us, this is what you have available to you. All ETFs, all US indices, all US stocks, all USA would be all stocks and indices all in one. Canadian stocks, German stocks, Dow, European stocks, NASDAQ, India, over in Asia, that market, Russell 2000, E-minis, and S&P 500. So the most popular are probably the S&P 500, NASDAQ, and Dow for people to run screens against. But you also could do TX60 up in Toronto. You could also filter by, excuse me, from here. You could also filter by right here, the most active, so the top 200 with open interest, top 200 by options volume. So there's all sorts of different groups that you can run the screens against. And then what we could do here is we can build a custom list. But before we build a custom list, I just want to show you some of the defaults that we have available. And as we see interesting names, we'll add those to a new group. So to do that, you click on new group. We'll do May 6th, Saturday session. Hit save. So now we've created this group. So now it's blank and we need to add to it, of course. So if I go back, this will bring you into your screen. The way to get back to your previous screen would be just go here, click on DJS. Now the Dow has popped up. Now what we could do is the other screen I run every day is this top stocks by volume. You could choose if you want to see the top 5, 20, 50, 100, or 200 results. Let's do 50. So what this is showing us is within this group, I was looking at actually Canadian stocks on Friday, TX60. So this shows us where the most volume is, OV, options volume, for this particular group. I don't think we probably have too many people trading the TX60. Maybe we do, but just in case, let's go back to the Dow. And you can see on Friday, Apple was the leader by a large margin, 5x over Microsoft, Intel, JP Morgan. In terms of total option volume. OIC stands for options open interest. But if you're one that likes to monitor where a lot of the action is happening within a specific group, this top stocks by volume is your tool. within a couple of mouse clicks, you can get all of that information readily available. The next broad-based screener, and I mean broad-based because with this, you're running it against our broad-based groups. You're not running this against a custom list. That's what you would do under the custom tab. But these are just the tools I run and screens I run first because I like to see kind of where the action is at a 10,000 feet above sea level view. So running this against the Dow, Walmart's in the lead here. And so what this means is this is looking at future versus past. So IVX30 is looking 30 days into the future and is calculating what volatility could look like for Walmart looking out the next 30 days, whereas historical volatility is looking at what happened with Walmart in actuality, right? So it's past versus future. So you could see here this 2.8. What that means is future volatility over the next 30 days is predicted to be almost 3 times higher than what it was in the past. So this is interesting. Maybe there's a potential reversion of the mean trade here. Maybe this is going to be a longer term breakout in implied volatility, in which case we can play that as well. But you could see within the Dow, Walmart, Coke, Salesforce, IBM, McDonald's, Home Depot. There's some interesting things going on here, looking into the future versus the past. So for me, these are potential trading opportunities. I would jot down a couple of these Tiggers, Walmart, MCD, and HD, for an example. 3 that I've traded a lot in the past. So I'm just kind of jotting those in my trading journal here as we're live. And then IVX historical range. This is also really, really cool. We had a question come in about how to find like the 52-week range for implied volatility. This is one of those places where you find that. So this IVX30 H over L, what that means is that's the high-low over the past 52 weeks. So for example, for Fox, for Dish, for Fox, let's focus on this one. Fox had a low of 22.91 on its implied volatility and a high of 53.11. So trading currently at 50.4, that shows you could just glance at that 52-week high, 53.11, and know intuitively that we're at the higher end of the implied volatility range for the year. But what helps codify that and put that into numbers terms is these columns. IVP30, this is one of my favorite measures. Anybody that's heard me do these before knows I love IV percentile, because what this tells me is how significant the current implied volatility reading is. So a 98.8 means, look, this stock has traded with a lower implied volatility 98.8% of the time over the past year, meaning this high implied volatility is statistically significant. And I like to use like 80 as my dividing line, so you could sort here by, anything above 80 is something I'm interested in. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 4 names within the Dow that, I might dig deeper into. So let me jot down one of these, which is Dish, and we'll add that to our custom group. IVX changed from yesterday. This is what you guys heard me talking about within the dashboard. We run this to look at, okay, well, within the S&P 500, for an example, where's the action? What names are seeing these shifts, maybe an underlying trend. And so you can screen and sort in ascending or descending order, BIIB, OGN, AMCTR, and MDT. These are kind of the top 5 that have had the biggest day-over-day jump. Of those, I'm not really familiar with those first, 4. Medtronic MDT is one I've traded plenty of times, so I jot that down. So now the cool thing is, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. By running these screens, I have 5 potential names that I'm interested in evaluating further that weren't on my radar before, for an example. So what we could do is we could go back to our new group that we just set up, and we can add these tickers. So May 6th, right now it's blank, but remember we liked Walmart was popped up on our screen, McDonald's popped up on our screen, Home Depot popped up on our screen, Dish, and Medtronic. So now just by running those screens, like over the next 5 to 10 minutes, we have 5 potential interesting trade setups. And then from here, we could do all sorts of things. But just from a basic view, the default setting is ticker, name, exchange, the close price of the underlying stock, the last price, change, option volume, call option volume, put option volume. Obviously, you combine call option volume, put option volume, you get the total option volume. options open interest, call option open interest, put option open interest, HV20, and then IVX30 and IVX chain. So this is great because now with these columns, you're able to say, okay, well, looking out ahead, IVX30 is a whole lot higher than historical volatility for Dish Network. For Home Depot, it's more or less the same. McDonald's a bit higher on implied vol, but both are low. Medtronic about the same. Actually, historical volatility is higher than implied volatility. And then Walmart showed up again on that screener where implied vol was almost 3 times higher. So this is very interesting. Just scanning through this list, you have a couple different ideas just by looking at change in or difference between IVX and historical volatility. You also have different ideas perhaps based on the call versus put volume. So we could see here, for an example, Dish, look how many puts were traded, more than 10 times more puts on Friday than calls. So there's a lot of bearish bets or hedging bets going on with Dish. So then you can always sort these two. So whoever has highest IVX, who's got the lowest IVX, then you can also add different columns. So once we start creating this custom list, you could do custom columns to the custom list. So there's all kinds of ways you can really get super unique under this custom tab. So this is alphabetized. These are all the different things that we ask, or that we have, excuse me. So you could add things like ask size, 52-week high, average option volume. You could have beta. And again, we're all different, traders. Every trader has their own unique style. Some are short-term, some are long-term, some are intermediate term. So depending on, the time frames you're most interested in, like correlation, you're able to decide, what data you want displayed within these different columns. Some of our users love trading around dividend dates. So you could add in these dividend dates, which I did here. Let me look. Yep. So I did a custom group on May 2nd, so earlier this week, and we wanted to sort by market cap, and we wanted to sort by, change since open, and as well as dividends. And so what I did is I created a custom group running those different screens, and you could see on this tab within the stock monitor, which is different than the one we were just in, I have different things checked to green. So I've got the change in the underlying price. That's going to tell us what's going on with the stock. I've got the dividends, and then I had market cap. And then that's why these particular columns are different than what we've set up over here on our new custom group. But what's neat about this now is I can filter by, okay, well, who's had the largest change since open on Friday? That was Tesla from within this group. Who's got the highest or the lowest market cap? For these mega caps, they all have pretty large market caps, but still you're able to sort very quickly. Like if you had, some smaller stocks in here, maybe from the Russell 2000, for an example, you could filter accordingly. And actually that's what we had over here. We were filtering through the Russell 2000. So all sorts of interesting things you can add to take away using this column setting, again, for your custom group. Now, how do we add to or take away? So as we do, additional analysis on this group, we might say, look, McDonald's, this implied volatility is so low, it's not even worth selling any kind of options against this name at 1371 for implied vol. It's kind of boring. Nothing's really happening. We're not bullish. We're not bearish. You could put a check by the name, and then you could hit this trash can icon. And now you have eliminated that stock from your custom group. Now, to add to the custom group as well, we have a couple different ways to do that are brand new. These are new capabilities that we just rolled out. So a couple different ways. One is you can add a group from a file. So I have this Excel file here. In the past, what you had to do is you needed the ticker and the exchange. Now we just need the ticker. And as long as you have, so like, let's say you had a list of like 100 stocks that you like to follow and their tickers, you can then just upload that to our handy tool here. So we would just go to open file, and then we go downloads, custom group, IVol, select the name. Remember we did this. I try to keep it simple just by doing the date. So May 6th, add all stocks uploaded. So now we've uploaded all those stocks from our custom Excel sheet. The other thing that you could do is, let's say we were scrolling over here. Let's say we're just on the stock monitor. We're going through a bunch of these. We're running this against the Russell 2000. And I want to know within the Russell 2000, one of these things, right? I want to know either implied volatilities that are going higher, breaking out, that are collapsing. I want to know where there's high call volume, high put volume, highest call to put ratio, highest put to call ratio. Let's say I want to see within the Russell 2000, IVX 30 over the past month, what names have broken out, gone higher by at least 10%, let's say. Here we go. BJ's Wholesale, Celsius Holdings. These are actually two that I'm familiar with. So I could check those. And then this is now sorted by my screen here, the breaking out implied volatility. Of course, you could have done the opposite. You could have said, okay, well, what names are having implied volatility collapse by 10%, meaning the options prices are getting cheaper. So I chose breaking out. Now what I can do is I've got these little check boxes here, and I can add those to a group. So now let's add to our handy May 6th Saturday session group. So now BJ's and Celsius have been added to that group. See, here we go, BJ's, Celsius. So those are two really, really cool shortcuts on adding names to a group. Now, the other names I was researching over the week that I found interesting were PACW, which is PacWest Bancorp, which has been absolutely slaughtered this week in market action. Coinbase, because they had an earnings beat, and it's one I've been following for the last couple months due to some interesting things going on there regulatory-wise. Coca-Cola, with low implied vol, options have been super cheap. So you can see, like, if I have these tabs up here, I'm able to, kind of click around and then add them manually to my custom group. So we'll do a drill down on a couple of these names to show what the next step would be. So let's just go PacWest for an example. So if you click on it, this will pull up, this new tab just pulled up, and from left to right, what you're looking at is fundamentals over here on the left, things like price, market cap, IVX, look at that, 369.64. So, this thing is going wild. The other things you could do with fundamentals is you can add to or take away. Again, that's the common theme here is find this gear icon, whatever you're looking at, and you'll see the different fields that you can add to or take away. So we could add dividend. I know PacWest just declared one from kind of my pre-market research. And then you could add beta. Those are two that I like to look at for an example. So now that's added, you could see, okay, this is this was the last dividend. Here's our beta, much more volatile than the S&P 500, almost 3 times more volatile than the S&P 500. And then over on the right, we have our charts. So, this chart view is really cool because what you're able to do is you're able to look at up to 5 years worth of data for price, which is blue, for implied volatility, which is green, and then for historical volatility, which is orange. And look at this, as PacWest is plummeting, look at this vertical spike in implied volatility. That's wild. But this shows you the inverse relationship between price and implied volatility very well. So this is 5 years worth of data. Like, I don't know anywhere else you can get this much data on implied volatility or historical volatility just by clicking a button and going back 5 years. You can also go 1 year, which is typically my favorite time frame to analyze. You could go 6 months, you could go 3 months, you could go 1 month. Look at that, price crashing, implied volatility spiking, and now historical volatility and implied volatility are about to kiss. And from these view, what's great about this chart view too is you can draw on this chart. So for an example, if I wanted to, demonstrate that implied volatility and historical volatility are meeting, I could go ahead and, draw my little moon there, my little crescent. And this, reminds me, okay, great, like something's happening here. Like these two are about to merge. Other things you could do, you could draw, trend lines. So you can play, your own options artiste with this particular view that you can't do on the charts tab. So I'll show the charts tab in a second. But if you do, the question came up, how do I draw on the charts? This is the view that you do it from. The other thing you could do is you could go down 24 hours, 1 day. So you could get really as granular as you want. And look at that. You have the different timestamps down here. That's showing what's going on with price, what's going on with implied volatility, literally tick by tick. So invaluable information. The other things you could do from this chart, you can isolate, you can add technical indicators. So our technical indicators, what's really neat about them is they apply to implied volatility. So you're able to run technical indicators against the stock's implied vol, which to me is an incredible tool because that can help you time your trade. So for an example, one that I demonstrate that's pretty easy is Bollinger Bands. So you can scroll through the list we have, which is dozens, or you could just type in what you're looking for. Some of the momentum indicators we use, stochastics, we have RSI, we have Bollinger Bands, but you could scroll through the list here and you can see there's quite a lot. So whatever you like, MACD, whatever you prefer, you can add. And then if from here, let's say that you really like these three indicators, Bollinger Bands, RSI, MACD, you can take a snapshot, and you can add this as part of your trading journal. You could tweet it if you so choose. What you could also do is you could save this chart layout. So you could say May 6th momentum indicators. And then what would happen is once you hit save, if you wanted to use these three indicators on every name that you're looking at within our custom group, you could just click load, and then you would load that chart layout and apply it. And the system would automatically apply these three indicators against that. So that saves you time kind of when building these charts. Other cool things you can do if you wanted to, which I do this all the time, if you wanted to isolate the implied vol, you're able to do that. I just click those little X's and now this green line is all we're looking at. But you can see PacWest was pretty boring for a long time. And then, the banking crisis hit in March. And then look at that. It spiked way above the upper Bollinger Band on implied vol. And it's still trading above the upper Bollinger Band. So normally, if this was like a normal stock, normal conditions, I'd be betting on a reversion of the mean on implied vol. But who knows? It could be taken over by the Feds at any moment. It's a little too wild of a situation, but you could see we're at extremes on the RSI, Bollinger Bands, and MACD. So if it's your thing to trade those kind of Wild West scenarios, then this gives you invaluable tools on the chart side. So I thought that was very interesting. Other charts that I've been looking at here, we have Microsoft, which has been doing really well. I think this shows a good, this was a good chart that caught my eye this morning, where price is going higher in the blue, and then the volatility measures are going lower, and so it's a really good indicator of that inverse relationship. Coinbase just had an earnings beat. It's still facing regulatory pressure, so it's got this kind of high IVX, but this has been another chart that I've been looking at. Here we had price kind of shoot higher, implied vol go down a bit, and then we had price shoot lower, implied volatility go up, and now these two are meeting. And this is a place that I've traded when implied vol and price have kissed. This is one that I've traded many times in the past for Coinbase. It's been a really good entry point for me. So this would be a great example of where I would draw that line. I would take a snapshot from my trading journal, and then I would say, okay, well, I have conditions that are about to be met that I've traded many times in the past. Let me, how do I dig deeper? How do I start evaluating actual options plays, this particular name? And so the way we do that is, this is a good segue into the options chain. So once you have kind of a name like Coinbase, you see a setup that you like. This is a price range I've been trading a lot too for Coinbase, anywhere from 50 to like 55. So we're kind of in that sweet spot. There's a couple different things that I like to do. So before I get to, I can come into the options chain. Before I do that, I think this is also a really good segue to go to the sentiment analyzer, because if I have a theory, like if I want to go long something, for an example, or if I want to sell a put to be, neutral, bullish neutral, I like to say, then I like to check the sentiment on the individual name. So for an example, that's where the sentiment analyzer comes in. So this is pulling from all kinds of data points to give us a indication, a quick summary of what's going on with the underlying stock sentiment. So this is another really good place to run screens and get name ideas. But if you already have a name idea, you click on stock sentiment analysis. You could see I was looking at Microsoft, which is bullish, quiet. It's kind of extended for me right now, so it's not really a great trade example at the present moment. But Coinbase is, and so when you type in coin, hit go. If you're super busy, all you have to do is read these top three. So this is telling you that Coinbase now is neutral, volatility unclear, which is great because I'm bullish neutral on the stock. I'm interested in selling a put. The bullish rank. So, here, if it was 100%, it'd be absolutely bullish. And then minus 100% would be absolutely bearish. So if you saw those readings of 100% or minus 100%, you would know, you can maybe do a reversion of the mean trade. Hey, this is at an extreme. It's inevitable that it's going to come, back down. Volatile rank is similar. So the volatile rank is 100%. If this showed as 100%, that would mean extremely volatile, and minus 100% would be absolutely still. So those are your legends there. And then these buy, sell, hold signals. So what these are you'll see a paragraph or two for our snapshot under this heading. So what this is going to tell you is Coinbase's recent market action. So, it had a nice day on Friday on that earnings beat. It's going to look at the historical volatility structure and tell you, does this look like it will revert to the mean? It's going to look at calls and put trading volume. And so in this case, calls and puts are balanced. And so this does not give a clear overbought or oversold signal. It's also going to look at the IVX, so the implied volatility term structure, looking ahead. So what you see is, like, if it's a question mark, that's going to show in our legend as a hold. If it's a green arrow, it's going to show as a buy. If it's a thumbs up by a green arrow, that's a second buy. So there's where the two buys come from. On the other hand, if it's a red arrow, that's a sell. And then a red arrow with a thumbs down would also be almost like a double, like a strong sell is one way to look at it. And in this case, we have two buys, two sells, four holds. So our system is saying, look, the system's neutral on Coinbase, which is totally fine with me. I mean, I think now could be a great entry point. Like I said, I've timed my entries to where implied vol and price have met. And so looking to potentially sell a put. As we move along here, technical indicator summary. So these are looking at three key technical indicators. Exponential moving average is one. So in this case, it shows slightly negative, though tentative sentiment. So you can see here, this is the EMA. And this chart is inconclusive, not really much going on. Relative strength index is looking at the 14-day RSI. So this is saying does not give a clear indicator of where price is going. So you can see here with the RSI, we're kind of in the middle, nothing extreme one way or the other. And then thirdly, the CMF, so the money flow pattern, it's below zero. That's a negative. That shows as a sell. So if we go to the chalk in money flow, you could see, Coinbase had this huge bullish move to start the year, January and February, while Bitcoin and Ethereum were crushing it. And then it got hit with some regulatory issues. And, now it's kind of waffled back and forth between negative and positive. So these are just quick. This is invaluable because it gives you like a simple paragraph and then a simple symbol, and then instantly what's going on. Other things while we're down here, this is, like the fundamental data to Coinbase. So this is, the stocks open high. This has nothing to do with the options, but this is everything to do with the underlying stock itself. I know somebody had that question. And then the correlation of the market. So this is how Coinbase trades relative to SPX, Dow Jones. And then this is looking at some of its historical volatility term structure, implied volatility term structure, but all of that is summarized for you up here. So I don't want anybody to really get lost in the weeds. This is another really cool tool, price bands calculator, to help maybe decide what strike price you're interested in. So you'll see here, this is showing us the likelihood that Coinbase will trade above 55.55 and below 60.94, by tomorrow. So this was from Friday, but if we say, okay, 1 week from now and recalculate, here, this is saying, okay, if looking at using the IV index 30, so looking out the next 30 days, what's the likelihood that Coinbase will stay one standard deviation from the current price based on this, implied volatility. So again, if you're a longer term trader, you could change this. If you're a shorter term trader, you could change. You could also, instead of, implied volatility, you can measure it against historical volatility. So for example, we could go IVX 60, recalculate. And what that's going to do is it's going to do all the math for you. And it's going to calculate what a 1 standard deviation move would be for Coinbase from its current price, a 2 standard deviation move from its current price, a 3 standard deviation move. It's going to give you the exact share price that correspond with that move. And then it's going to tell you the probability of, this scenario playing out. So for an example, 1 week from now, there's a 68% chance that Coinbase will be above 50, 95, but below 65, 64. So that's how you read this chart. You could also do like a month. You could do something custom. So you could say, well, what are the odds that Coinbase will be above 50, but below 60, for an example, and hit recalculate. And there's a 26.6% chance that Coinbase will fall within this range. So that's cool too if you're doing different spreads, calendar put spreads, for an example. Could be very useful to know, the likelihood that the option will stay within a couple bands. Now, there's another place to do this too. What I'm doing here is just essentially using sentiment to confirm my overall trading theory. And so, with Coinbase, I'm neutral to bullish. That sentiment analyzer helps me really hone in on that and verify that trading thesis. And so then once I have the verification from the sentiment analyzer, I come back to IVolLive, and then I start getting very granular. I go to the options chain. Here's what you'll see as your defaults. So you have calls on the left, puts on the right. We've got our middle strike price. So, the at the money strike price with Coinbase at 58.24, at the money is 58 here. And then our default will show you 5 strikes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could toggle, see 1 strike, you could see 2 strikes, you could see all strikes. So as you can see, once you do that, only problem is you get to where there's, not much action here on the bid or the ask. So I tend to like 5. You could change your mid price here, so if you wanted to go way outside the money, but only look at 5 strikes, you could do something like, come here. You do like 65 for an example. It's going to show you the 5 strikes using 65 as your middle figure. So again, that's useful for anybody that likes to do way outside the money type analysis. And then you can also do different expirations. So you could look at leaps. If you're a long-term trader, you could look at the next 2, 3, 4 upcoming expirations. You could look at quarterlies, weeklies, all of the above. Again, just depending on what you would like. You could see that did change to 65 here. So it's a good little demo. 65 is now our mid price. Now we're looking at the 2 above and below. I want that to be 58. So let's go back to that. Okay, great. So now we're back to where we were. We could show call and put, or just call, or just put. Here, what you're able to do is add per usual, different column settings. So alpha is one I like to have for the options price, but you can see these are all the different ones you could add. So we could add rho and theta, so a few more of the Greeks. You can hit apply, and it will apply just to this Coinbase tab, or save as default, and it will apply for all of these tabs, any tab you pull up. So just hit apply, and here we go. Those have been added to our columns now. So especially if I'm selling this put option, I'm agreeing to buy Coinbase at 58, I want to know how much theta I'm going to earn. So I'd earn 19 cents a day up until expiration on May 12th. So other cool things you could do from this view, handy little shortcuts. I always pull up this probability calculator. So if we keep it just super basic and say, we're interested in selling a put option because, the conditions have kind of met where I'd like to have an entry, but I want to get paid to make that entry. That's where selling a put would come in. If I sold this at 58, I like to put that in as price 1. And this is going to tell us the likelihood that at expiration, which is May 12th, 2023, what's the likelihood that Coinbase will be trading at this below this price, meaning I'd be put. Price 2, I always put higher than price 1, just on the off chance that maybe I should be structuring this trade, as maybe a bull calendar spread or straddle. So I just like to see, hey, what if this thing could shoot higher? and I need to be paying attention to that. So I always put in a higher price for price 2. So you can see with Coinbase, the likelihood of the stock trading below 58 is 50%. Now, on the other hand, the likelihood of the stock trading above 62 is only 27%. So it wouldn't make much sense, maybe to buy these call options, around 62, because they chances are they won't pay out. On the other hand, I'm happy to be put at 58. I'm happy for that to be my entry price. So there's a 50-50 chance that I will be put, but in exchange, I'm also going to earn $2.50 a share just for putting on the trade. So really, it's like agreeing to buy the stock at 55.50, for an example, instead of 58, because you get paid $2.56 per share. So since any options newbies out there, each option contract covers 100 shares. So this income would actually be $256 if I sold this option today at the bid. So typically the trade will happen between the bid and the ask. So my guess is somewhere around 260 is where this trade would execute at. But those are really cool things you could see on the probability calculator. The other thing you could do on the options calculator here, we do cover American and European style. Biggest difference is with American, you can exercise at any point leading up to expiration. European, you can't do any early exercise. You have to wait till the expiration date of the option. But over here, what you're able to do is play market maker. So, you could see there's 6 days, 3 hours and 18 minutes before, all of these options on May 12th would expire. But you can play around with that and you can say, all right, well, what happens if, there's only 3 days left? And what happens if the market kind of chills out a bit, next week, and implied volatility goes from 84 down to 75, as an example? You can play with interest rates and dividends. I typically don't, but depending on how granular you want to get, you can. But let's just say that time decreases and implied volatility decreases. What happens? Well, this put would only be worth $1.66. And since we're selling it for $2.56, we'd be up almost $1 per share going in, using this scenario. So I could buy to close it, lock in the profit. I could keep it open, and then that time decay will kick in until it expires worthless and keep that whole, income. You could also play around with, different pricing here, like if the price for Coinbase changed, because ultimately it does. None of these trades happen in a vacuum, but this little calculator tool is one of my favorites. You're able to get so much information on a specific trade just by clicking on that. The other thing I like to do from the options chain view is price and implied volatility charts. So what this is showing us is for this specific Coinbase option, this is showing us the bid, the ask, the lask. This is showing us the implied volatility. So you could see on Friday, the implied vol on this strike actually went down, as the trading day wound down. This is very interesting to look at. So had we sold this, we're earning all of this decrease. And as time decay kicks in, this is also really cool. This shows you at what price, the last price, and at what implied volatility level every trade executed at for this specific strike on Friday. So this is really, really cool information, because ultimately, data is great, but the judge, jury, and executioner is when people are actually spending real money on these trades. And this table shows you what they're spending the money on and where. Another thing I like to look at within this table view is our skew chart. So we had a question from somebody before the webinar, how to find the time skew chart. You can do that from our charts tab, which are pretty beefy. Like they've got a lot of different things you could do on them, which we'll touch on. But you can also do it just real quickly. If you're looking at a specific option strike, you could just pull that up here. And this will show you, I have a real-time account, so this is showing me everything in real time. Puts in blue, calls in green here. And this shows you the difference in implied volatility. So you can see puts have a higher implied vol than calls. And then on the x-axis, this is our maturity. So this is looking at, options that expire 7 days from now, 14, 21, 28, 35, 49. So you can see implied vol for this particular strike price, 58, it's going higher as we go further into the future. So anticipating an increase in implied volatility for this specific strike at 58. So a lot of cool, really interesting information from the options view. You can also do a lot of this in the charts view. So for an example, when you just register and you pull up your charts, You'll get 4 default charts. So this will be SPY. Here's our little legend. That's how you always know what you're looking at. So you'll have spot price, implied volatility, historical volatility, and then you'll have open interest and volume. So what's really cool about this is in red, that's our call volume, and blue, that's our put volume. So this is SPY. This isn't Coinbase, but I'll show you how to do, Coinbase in a moment. But, here, just if we wanted to get a quick temperature gauge, of the market, we could see puts and calls are more or less equal right now. Going into this month, March, we had a lot more puts trade on the SPY than calls, which you can earn red. So you see, having this view, you get some really good information at a glance, which is what I love about it. And then when I pull it up, it auto updates. So this is like a real-time temperature gauge on the market on SPY. You can change the different views. I like the Big Mac view where I can see it all stacked on top of each other, but there are, grid view, whatever you so choose in terms of personal preference. You can also do, I do this all the time. I create these custom fear gauges, we call them. So most people are used to using the VIX as a fear gauge, and the VIX is great, but this is only really telling you what's going on with the broader market, the S&P 500. This isn't really telling you what's going on a granular level with stocks. But, for example, with the VIX, even now, this is the VIX price in blue, and you can isolate the VIX's implied volatility, which is fantastic. And then you could add technical indicators on top of this to see when the VIX will probably reverse, right, and head lower. So for example, just by adding Bollinger Bands, we know anytime the VIX hits one of these upper Bollinger Bands, it's gonna, come back down. And when it comes back down, that typically means the market's going back up. So I have the VIX tab pulled up all the time to help me kind of get a temperature gauge on the market. But what's great about these chart views is we've been looking at Coinbase, we can create a custom fear gauge on Coinbase, for an example. So, right now, I think this is Microsoft. This is what we're looking at on Tuesday. But, we could do a spot price, we could do Coinbase, and then we could look at, we've been looking at the last 3 months. And then what we could do is add another chart for its IVX. So what we're doing here is we're creating that custom fear gauge, because this is going to show us, always make sure, same time range. So it's apples to apples. These are all the different terms we have available. Again, if you're a short-term trader, you could do IVX 70. If you're a long-term trader, you could do IVX 1080. That'd be over 1,000 days from now. And then here we go. So we can, easily see this relationship as spot price goes up, implied volatility goes down. As implied volatility goes up, spot price, the share price goes down. Here we have price going up and implied volatility crashing in current days. So this is really cool. You could create your own custom fear gauge here, no matter what. That could be on Coke, FRC, Microsoft, Coinbase, PACW. That could be on any of these different names that we've been evaluating today in our custom group. So this charts tab is very, very useful for that. So typically what I'm doing is I'm running the scans in IVolLive. I'm looking at, the individual charts and fundamentals. I'm finding a strike price that I like. I'm going to the sentiment analyzer to then evaluate the sentiment for that particular stock, which is Coinbase. And then the final step, I come here to the P&L calc, and I run the potential profit and loss on the trade. So I also run a few different scenarios. I just like to battle test, my theories consistently, kind of play a bit, devil's advocate. So, this chain will pop up, and all you need to do is select the particular option you're most interested in. I believe we've been looking at the May 12th, 58. So you just need to scroll to the appropriate. Here it is, 256. When you click on that, it will populate in the screen behind you. I want to keep this very basic for now, but what you could do is you could add as many option legs and a stock leg if you wanted to. For example, for a covered call, option leg you could add if you're doing a spread trade. But for now, let's look at this as just a plain Jane buy or sell option play. So in this case, we have sell to open the May 12th, 2023 58 put, one of those at 256. And then this is the implied volatility for that option. This is the delta, gamma, theta, vega. That was the stuff that you saw in the options chain view, but it's also redisplayed for your convenience here. And then here graphically, the blue line is our break-even point, right here around 58 a share. Anything in red shows where we'd be showing a loss. So obviously, if we sold this put, we'd be showing a loss as Coinbase went down. If we bought this put, we'd be showing, or excuse me, if we sold to open this put, we'd be showing a gain as Coinbase goes higher. That's graphically represented here. It's in table view here, which shows, for selling one contract, this is what the P&L looks like. Obviously, anything over 58, we're sitting pretty. You could also play around and say, what if I sold 7 of these? And then what if instead of 256, I mentioned that I would anticipate this trade closing, between the bid and the ask, which would be like 260. So you can update the price that you actually get. Other things you could do here, you could play around with, well, all right, what if volatility goes up during my holding period by 10 absolute percentage points? So the implied volatility went from 85 to 95. So that's interesting. You could also do, what if it just went up 10% relative points? So not 10 absolute points, but 10% relative points. The other things you could do is you could play around with days to expiration. So you could, bring this cursor over. You could also that went down to 4 days to expiration. You could also go here and, that's 1 day before expiration, and everything's updating in real time as you make those adjustments. You'll say, well, okay, well, what if Coinbase goes to, 59 a share? Here we go, everything update. Within advanced settings, you could toggle and, play around with interest rates and dividends as they do impact options prices. But, typically, unless you're the chairman of the board, that could be a bit difficult, but you can model different scenarios. What if Coinbase implements a dividend? Because they don't, right? They don't have one right now, and they pay it quarterly. And the first date is May 31st, for an example. Could hit apply. Same thing with interest rates. You could play around with those there. And then if you're ever like, what did I just do? Let me go back to what things were originally, hit reset. And then everything goes back to, 0% change in volatility, and then still 6 days to expiration. So this is a really clean view. I know, look, if the price does this, here's my P&L based on the action I want to take. I could also battle test other scenarios. I could say, well, what if I'm completely wrong here and I should be bearish instead of neutral to bullish? You can invert the chart. And now this is a bearish bet. So you can see we're making money by buying to open this May 12th put option. We're making money as Coinbase goes down, and we're losing money as Coinbase goes up. So literally the exact opposite. You can also change that down here. So you can sell a put. We could add an option leg if we wanted to do spreads. We could add another option leg. We could add a stock leg. So I'd say probably the most common thing is with our users buying option, selling option, and then doing covered calls. So we could add, here we are buying 100 shares, and then let's go ahead and sell, the May 12th, but, let's say we're selling the May 12th call against those shares. So in this case, with a few mouse clicks, we just traded this to, we just changed this rather to a covered call trade. So we're buying 100 shares, we're selling calls against that. We're making money, as Coinbase goes up, but we're capping our upside, obviously, by selling the call. And that's just a couple quick clicks. The other thing you could do here is if you did want to be delta neutral, you could tell, okay, well, for every 100 shares I own, I could actually probably sell 2 covered call contracts to be delta neutral. It's a bit more than delta neutral at 122, but those are some of the quick, easy things you could do on this platform that I love, with the P&L calc. But that general basic, and then let's say, you want to just go back to the basics. Here we go. Here's our original trade. So that's how I go from high level view, get some ideas from our dashboard, then run those ideas through IVolLive, add some names from IVolLive to a custom group, find a couple names to run through our sentiment analyzer, then go to the P&L calc to evaluate the trade, and then make a decision. And from here, if I like what I see, I'll actually execute the trade with my broker. A couple other things I just want to show, for anybody that's newer here, real-time spread scanner. If you are a spread trader, this is your tool. This is your friend, because what you can do is you could come here and you could go long or short, And then you could do here's all the different coverage that we offer: straddles, strangles, gut strangles, calendar spreads, bull verticals, bull diagonals, bear verticals, bear diagonals, conversions, callers, naked calls, naked puts, naked call, covered put. So, this is a very beefy, strong tool. We cover this typically in our Tuesday sessions, because on Tuesdays we go into a specific tool. The Saturday sessions are more designed to be a broad overview. But we'll do another real-time spread scanner one soon. And what happens is you can get very granular too. Risk, reward. You don't want to spend any more or less than X. You don't want to go any higher than Y. You can also specify the Greeks. Then as you find trades that you like, you add them to your pocket in your monitor. And this is how you create kind of like a custom watch list within IVolLive. Because, again, these aren't just spreads. The other strategies that you could do here are just buying and selling. Let me go here. Here we go. Buying and selling, calls and puts as well. So this is where you would create like an actual watch list. Then you can download that watch list to Excel. You can upload a watch list as well. So really, really cool tools here. We'll cover that in an upcoming Tuesday. Data download is great if you want to, get historical data. If you want to battle test, I use this to back test my trading strategies. Probably the most popular thing for retail users would be options prices. You get implied volatility and you get underlying prices and historical volatility pretty easily within that IVolLive charts tab. So there's really, I think the best time and money best spent, which every IVolLive account gets a monthly credit depending on your account type for data download. I think your best bet's probably, your best return on investment is with the NBBO options prices, because what this will do is you type in, the name you're interested in, you tell the system, the date that you want it for, and here, let's just say it'll tell you what the price will be. So $34, no problem. I agree. And then you can also decide to get daily updates on this particular name on Coinbase, make an order. And this is going to give me open, low, high, close, Greeks, open interest. Here we go. Order successful. Everything I need to know about Coinbase from January 1st through May 4th. Then that'll show up under my downloads. You can see an email just popped up confirming my order. And now my order is ready. So it happens that quickly. And then you can come back and you can access. You can see the things I've ordered in the past: Coinbase, Tech Resources, and I believe Cisco's on here. Yep, there it is. Tesla, Skyworks. So these are different data downloads I've done to then battle test and back test different strategies. So that's a very good tool. Updates wizard, of course, always make sure you are up to date. And I want to pause now. We're almost at 1 o'clock, and I just want to see if there's any additional questions that I didn't cover. So that way I can make sure no stone has gone unturned. Let me go back here just to the dashboard, because I want to bring up our email address for anybody that's not a user or is on trial and they want to upgrade their account. This is where we're at: support at IVolLive, and then we could get you going. The account I use is a real-time account, so everything updates in real time. If that's about too much for you, we have an advanced account, which is updates and delayed, about 20 minutes. And then we have a basic account, which is the most bare bones, but it still gets your foot in the door. All right, thank you, John. Appreciate that. Thank you for the kind words. Let's see. Let me pull up the chat and make sure. Names. Yeah, so the best way to think about IVolLive is this is like your analytical engine for your options trading. So you're not going to actually execute any of the trades on this platform. You do that with your broker. But what you do is you use this to analyze options in a way that, even on I have 3 different brokers. On each one of those broker platforms, I don't have the same level of information on implied volatility, which is a huge determinant of options pricing, that I do on IVolLive. So like I use IVolLive to do almost all of my research at this point, fundamental and technical analysis, and then I go enter the trade with the broker. So this is this is my preferred companion tool. I've been trading options, I don't know, almost 15 years now, and this is the analytical tool I use to then decide on the specific option I want to trade. So that's from a high level how to look at the platform. Yeah, the data is the previous trading day by default. So in this case, since we're doing this on Saturday, the data that was being displayed was from Friday. Our retailers. Yes, about 70% of our users are retail traders. So I try to hone in on the tools that are most useful, which would be, the scans on IVolLive, the P&L calc, and then two, the sentiment analyzer. I think that's a really, really good tool because it shows you the underlying sentiment for a particular name. Let's see. All right. Yeah. Yes, I will send this out to a recording of this out to everybody on the webinar. And anybody that registered, I'll send a recording of this once we have a chance to edit it. Let's see. Beautiful. Great. Well, I was joined by our co-founder and CEO, Mr. Ganna, in the chat room per usual. He's an invaluable partner to keep up with those questions while I am speaking. So that was great. I know we had a bit, more attendance today, which is great. So there's probably a lot more questions in there. So thank you, Ganna, for helping out with that. And it looks like we got them all covered. I'll send out this recording to everybody afterwards. In the meantime, I hope everyone has a great, great weekend. I hope to see everyone on Tuesday. We're pinning down the specific topic that we'll cover, but we'll shoot an email out on Monday with our newsletter, and we'll have that topic in there. And we'll go from there. Thanks, guys. This is Jonathan with IVolLive. Until next time, happy trading. Thanks, Patricia. Appreciate it.